Oh my God. Look at it.
Ooh, this is the finish.
Yeah. This is the piano of my dreams.
I love this piano.
This turned out more beautifully than even I had hoped.
In 1908, my parents lost a baby, and while they were waiting for me, they had this made to be delivered in 1910, when I was born July 7, 1910.
Pianos are much more than musical instruments or pieces of furniture. They resonate throughout the lives of the individuals who play them, restore them, or just love them.
My grandmother and I were very close. I lived with her when I was a little girl, going to kindergarten. My grandmother was studying to be a concert pianist, and when her father died, they called her to come back from Boston where she was studying, and I guess she had to give up her career. And women that day and age, they got married, and as a wedding present, she was given the piano. That's how it came into the family since 1920. See, we just saw the 1920 signature on the piano. Then it moved to New Jersey, where I lived in East Brunswick, and she had an antique white, and mostly used it for parties. My grandmother made her take lessons when she was a little girl, and she hated it, but she made sure we had lessons. I'm the only one who kind of stuck with, which is how I ended up having the piano. My grandmother was a special person to me in my life, and having something of hers to remember her by was really important. But I refused to take the piano antiqued white. I said, I will not take a piano that ugly. So I had to go inside of myself and think real carefully, because this is a fairly big financial proposition. And I decided it was worth it to me to spend the money and have the piano restored the way it was when my grandmother got it, and to be able to pass it on to my children, to have that continuity. That's my son, who is now 19, and that's my daughter. And she's the pianist, actually, but he's the musician, so it's going to be a very difficult thing when it comes time for the piano to be passed down. You know, the piano, Nana's piano, that's what we call it.
The Steinway Model D grand piano has 243 strings and 12,000 parts. Piano restoration is a time-consuming, precise craft, practiced to perfection in Philadelphia by the Cunningham Piano Company. The company was started in 1891 by Patrick J. Cunningham, a wealthy Irish aristocrat who rode to work in a limousine.
My father would watch P.J. Cunningham go by in his chauffeur-driven Packard, and he was in awe of him.
Pearl Harbor ended 50 successful years of manufacturing and selling new pianos. In 1942, P.J. Cunningham turned his company over to one of his employees, Lewis Cohen. Cohen had first learned the business as an itinerant piano tuner.
When I was a little girl, I remember him telling me stories of how he went to tune pianos and how his shoes were worn out and there were holes in them, and he put newspapers in the bottom of his shoes so he could get through the day.
Lewis Cohen's hard-earned knowledge of pianos served him well. As hundreds of piano companies were going out of business, Cunningham thrived by emphasizing the refurbishing and sale of used instruments. The company also developed a national reputation for the quality of its piano restoration work. Two of the skilled craftsmen hired by Louis Cohen are still working for his daughter 40 years later.
I don't move pianos anymore. I leave that to the young guys.
Frank came in the 50s, when the boss was here, the father, Rosendarz's father.
52 years. Al, working up on the verticals here, who came from the Leicester factories, 40 plus years.
The combination of time in the piano industry, just in this building, is probably close to, if not over 200 years. And Frank and Al are basically have been the teachers for everybody that's in here now. I mean, we all learn from those two guys, and as we learn and new guys come in, we have the ability to show them different tasks and operations because we've been around long enough. And I guess I'm just the next Frank or Al from Cunningham Piano Company.
I got into it like in 1975, and at the time with my father-in-law, who had a shop in Mantua, who did work part-time for himself. And I had always played guitar, that's what I was doing before. He needed some help, at night, so I would go down in the evenings and help him out. At the time, I was a district manager at McDonald's, restaurant. So I thought, hey, this is you're going from a hectic lifestyle, in one end to a piano lifestyle, which is 360-degree turn, because it's very slow and repetitive and tedious. So at that time, to me, it was really an attractive feature. And then eventually I came to work here at Cunningham. Been here ever since. So you see the different styles and shapes and ages of the pianos we see here, and you won't see this kind of a variety anywhere. Each one has a little bit of a story.
I was in Czech Republic studying at the Prague Conservatory. I applied to a Temple University and I was accepted. I got a scholarship, so we moved here. My parents gave me all their savings they saved up through their life. It was $6,000. And I was thinking I need a car to get to the school. I need a piano to practice on. So spent probably $4,500, $5,000 on my piano and $1,000 on my car. My parents, they thought I was crazy. We lived in an empty apartment for a really long time, sleeping on the floor, eating on the floor, and the only thing there was my piano.
If you repaired refrigerators, if the light comes on and it keeps ice cream, they're happy. But with pianos, you're working with their babies, some of them.
You have 88 notes. If one note doesn't play, just one out of 88, you don't have your piano. So it's not like an automobile. It'll run on 7 cylinders, One might be missing, but it'll putt along.
And I mean, they're so happy when you can fix something for them. You have to listen and be able to listen and talk and understand, and have them describe the problems they don't like or problems they're having or situations, and try to talk with them so you both understand what is necessary or what needs to be done. Some of the people have pianos that are old and they're actually worn out, but it's part of them. It's their heart and soul, this little piano that they have. So you have to be able to get it to work the best it can be. And then they're friends for life. I've got more Christmas cookies.
I can remember too, you sit in a house and the piano is decorated with certain pictures and all, and you sit in the house and sometimes you go once a year, sometimes you go every other year, but for that hour and 15 minutes or whatever you are sitting in that at that piano at that house, it almost seems like you never left.
Ich liebe dich, so wie du mich am Abend und am Morgen, noch war kein Tag.
My name is Jody Applebaum. I'm a soprano. I grew up in a musical family in northern New Jersey. My father, Stanley Applebaum, is a composer and arranger. And I am lucky enough to be married to one of the best pianists in the entire world, Marc-Andre Hamelin. I have a gorgeous piano. This is the piano of my dreams. Even when I was paying the loan, every month when I wrote the check, I would smile It was never, oh God, another loan check. No, I was so happy every time I wrote that check because it meant that more of the piano was mine.
Gott schütze dich, hat dich mir, schütz und erhalt.
People purchase a piano for all kinds of different reasons. They have a piano in their home for all kinds of different reasons. I have a customer who has really never played a note, but has purchased 4 or 5 instruments, all of them world class. He's spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on pianos. He loves them. The man spent an incredible amount of time choosing exactly the right look, exactly the right tone. Even to this day, he has technicians out to do custom voicing on the instruments that he's purchased. Every time a tuner goes out, they do not just tune the piano, they work on the instrument. As far as the attack, as far as the exact touch, he's very particular, and he knows exactly what he wants. He just doesn't play.
There was an article in the paper over this previous weekend about Andres Schiff performing down at the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts.
He moves his piano and brings a full-time piano technician with him wherever he goes. He can make any instrument that he sits down at sound wonderful, but he wants a particular touch, a particular feel. He wants to sit down and know exactly what the piano's going to do when he sits down. He does not use the same piano for each piece of music that he plays or each type of music that he plays. He owns 9 different pianos.
It's like tasting wine. He picked a Bösendorfer with Mozart. He might have picked a Steinway with Tchaikovsky. You know, he went for a sound and a tone.
People always talk about, well, you know, what's the difference? Why is a Steinway so much better than some other piano? And it's basically in little things just like that. Just the amount of bearing, one way or this way, the amount of height that they give a string on the bridge, that makes all the difference.
I wonder if this piano will last forever. I can't imagine anybody saying, let's get rid of this.
No. It'll start its own patina of little kids' shoe buckles that scrape the bench as they get up to play.
And certainly new repertoire. They won't be playing World War I songs and crying.
No.
Our family goes back generations, and here's something from generations past that generations down the line will have to say that they existed.
This piano is going to stay with me wherever I go for the rest of my life because I can't imagine having a more beautiful instrument. This is the piano that my little girl dreams had in my head, and I have it now.
I just cannot play in front of people. I always get so nervous. So, it just when I'm sad or when I feel like it, I just sit down by the piano and I play, and it just kind of makes me, happy inside. If I'm in a stress or, I need to calm myself down or, it's just part of my life.